So because they think that monks are free and they have all the freedom out there. And they ask, okay, explain how you spend your life. What do you wake up in the monastery? So usually in the monasteries, monks have to wake up a bit early because early in the morning they have their chantings and meditations and preparation for the day. So monk also, we wake up about 4:30 in the morning because at 5 a.m. usually we have our chanting and meditation. Then the prisoners was very surprised. Oh, we only wake up here about 6 plus. You have to wake up 4:30. Okay, then they ask, okay, how you spend the rest of the day? Okay, then monks explain, okay, we will do our cleanings of the temple and we have to make our own places clean. And then explain, then we take our breakfast. Then they ask, okay, after that, do we have time to play football? Maybe baseball or other games? The monks reply, no, we don't play. We will study and we will have some sharing session with the people who visit us. We have to help them. So either we will engage in study or helping other people. We don't play. Okay, oh, here we have chance to play sometimes football and other games. Then ask, okay, then what do you do in the afternoon? Do you watch movie? Do you go to cinema? And say, no, we don't go. We don't watch movie or cinema for entertainment purpose, unless there's an education purpose. We don't engage in entertainments. And they were beginning to realize, oh, we thought that monks are having a real good life there. It seems like they have more restricted life than us. Then after a while they understood how monks spending their day. After a while they begin to feel sorry about the monk. Because they realize that the monk's life in the monastery is more restricted than their life in the prison. Then at the end of the discussion, they say, oh please, come and stay with us. At least here we can play football, we can see a movie, we have some form of entertainments. And they felt sorry about the monk. But are monks really suffering because of those restrictions? No. They are really happy. Why? Why the prisoners, although they have chances to play football, have chances to do some form of entertainment, why they are not happy there? Because they don't know the inner sources of happiness. Although monks have a restricted life in terms of worldly perspective, they know the inner sources of happiness, how to be happy, even without having entertainments, even without, even though they have sort of restrictions in the perspective of the worldly beings. Because they know how to be happy using their inner sources. The prisoners don't know. They think that happiness is all about entertainments. Happiness is all about playing games. That is the only source of happiness they knew about. So that is the good example about our misconception about happiness. That is why we need to know the inner source of happiness. Okay, now we talk about different levels of happiness. So first I will talk about 3 levels of happiness that even the Buddhism recognizes as some sort of happiness that we can experience in the worldly level. The first level of happiness is called happiness of sensual pleasure. Happiness of sensual pleasure, which means when we encounter a pleasurable object to our eye, to ear, nose, tongue and body, and maybe even to mind, we consider it as a happiness. We call happiness of sensual pleasure. So that is why we are happy when we see a beautiful things. We are happy when we listen to a nice piece of music. We are happy when we can have a good food. We are happy to have a good fragrance. We are happy to have a comfortable place to sit or sleep. And we are happy to think some pleasurable memories in our life. So that is a happiness of sensual pleasure. Of course, Buddhism recognizes this form of happiness as one of the form of happiness. But the only thing is that Buddhism says that it's not a noble sense of happiness. It's not the only happiness that you can experience in your life. Moreover, this happiness of sensual pleasure It's very momentary. And it also causes a lot of troubles sometimes. So those happiness of sensual pleasures are not free. Which means, of course, you get one free. If you take one happiness, you get one trouble free. Get one happiness of sensual pleasure, you get one trouble free. That is the nature of sensual pleasure. Which means you will enjoy looking at beautiful things. Then there's also danger in being addicted to that sensual objects, pleasurable objects, and it also involves potential problems and troubles and suffering. And also they are very fleeting and momentary. That is why no matter how much we have seen in our life, how much we have listened to nice things into our life, no matter how much things we have eaten, we still don't feel satisfied. They are only momentary, fleeting. And also, for you to achieve that kind of happiness, we have to put a lot of effort to that. Just think about sensual pleasure. In order to have that happiness, you have to put a lot of effort. In order to have a nice food, how much effort you have to put into that? And just think about just enjoying the food, just chewing the food itself. If you just chewing the food itself is a tiring thing. You have to put some effort. Right? Just imagine, without food, if I ask you to chew for 5 minutes without food, just moving your mouth, it's a tiring thing. We don't recognize that tiresomeness because of we focus more on the taste of the food. But if you just chewing for 5 minutes, you begin to feel all the pain. It's a tiresome thing. Even just think about other sensual pleasure. Even the sexual pleasure, it involves effort, exertion, a kind of tiresomeness to have that pleasure. And also it follows certain consequences which may not be healthy to our life. So Buddha says that all the sensual pleasures are appasada bahu adinava. They have little pleasure, a little satisfaction, but carries a lot of consequences, unfavorable consequences. The sensual pleasures gives you happiness, but it also may give you other lot of bad consequences too. The sensual pleasure is just like if you take a rope, the width of the rope is the pleasure that you get from sensual pleasure. The length of the rope is the consequence of troubles, difficulty that follows that happiness. The width of the rope is the happiness that you get from the sensual pleasure. The length of the rope is the troubles or difficulties that you may encounter. So it is a whole package. We only focus on the pleasurable part, but if you see clearly, there's a big package with appasada bahu adinava, with little satisfaction, but with a lot of unfavorable consequences. So therefore, the Buddhism teaches us to move beyond that. Don't think that that is the only source of happiness. Of course, many people go after that, but that is not the only source of happiness. You can move ahead. You can go forward and achieve and have other forms of happiness which are more endurable and which will give you more deep sense of happiness. And the second level of happiness in the worldly sense is called happiness of worldly success. Happiness of worldly success means the happiness that you get because of the success of your career. Buddha says that the Attisukha, when you earn some amount of money with your own sweat, with your own effort, and when you have enough wealth to support yourself and the family and to do your other duties, you feel a sort of happiness. Buddha called it happiness of possession, Attisukha. When you feel financially stable, there is a source of happiness, but in a worldly sense. But the Buddha called it Attisukha. Therefore, the lay people, Buddha asked people to go and earn enough wealth to support yourself